from the perspective of truly a global company, a well-known global company with tentacles all over the world, what are the links between workforce diversity and market opportunity?
When I started, and you mentioned that with Siemens in 1988 as a young engineer, so Siemens was, would say, a German company with a European footprint and a global aspiration. So, of course, we were always global in the way that we did some business in some countries. But when you looked at our company, so we had more than 400,000 employees at that time, and more than 60% of those employees, they worked in Germany. So, and now, in 2016, we have around 360,000 employees worldwide, and more than 60%, I must say, even maybe close to two-thirds of our employees are abroad. So, and our markets are abroad, and Germany is by far not the biggest, would say, regional entity anymore. It's the US. So then Germany is the UK, it's China, India. So of course also in Latin America we are very present. And when you see that the market is global, also your solutions and your services, your products you offer to the markets needs to be global. And then you need people to develop those services and products and also deliver those services and products. And that can also only be successful if you have a very diverse workforce and also a network of a diverse workforce in order to be successful. So for us, it's a strategic imperative. It's a core element of our strategy, and it's necessary for Siemens to grow. For me, it's very clear diversity is not just something you have. It's a strategic imperative. It's not, for me, just a trend. It's something where we build our company on, where we keep our company and corporation relevant for the future. And that is, for me, really a very important element for the prosperity of the company, but also what we give back to the societies and to the customers we work with. So that is a very strong and very significant core element.
From the perspective of a client-facing business that has deliberately grown a diverse employee and client base, why should there be a strategy to support newcomer/immigrant business clients?
There are a number of reasons why it makes sense to support diverse suppliers or immigrant entrepreneurs. And I'll just start with a couple. We know that newcomers are starting businesses at a much faster rate than non-immigrant business owners. And so whether they are pushed into entrepreneurship or pulled into it, StatsCan tells us that 20% go on to start businesses in Canada and become self-employed compared to 15% of their Canadian counterparts. And I'll add to that in studies that we commission at RBC, 48% of immigrants interviewed expressed an intention or a plan to start a business within 3 years of moving to Canada. Some of the studies also indicate that 71% of immigrant entrepreneurs are highly educated with a university degree. They are skilled, and they are starting businesses across all different industries: trade and transportation, knowledge-based industries, business and consumer services. So as immigrant entrepreneurs penetrate our markets, increase their strength, we have an incredible opportunity to gain new and fresh perspectives from their knowledge, from their experience. If you think about moving to a new country, leaving your home country, and coming here as a consumer is tough enough. Having to find employment, having to find schools for your kids. But then to make a decision to start a new business and to expand your network, to learn a new culture, a new work culture. It's just critically important that we have programs in place to really ensure their success.
What are the challenges companies face in the attraction and retention of diverse talent? And talk to us about some of the proven or promising solutions that you have either been involved in or observing.
As a chamber, what we're looking to do is not drive change in individual organizations, but to drive it at a systems level. So the first thing we do is use data to tell the story. and frankly to get people's blood going. So the Diverse by Design report that Josh mentioned level set Cincinnati on some key issues around how diverse we were and also how inclusive we were. But then we compared how we were doing against 11 regions we compete with for people and jobs. That gets people's attention. When we're lagging behind other regions that we think should be peers or we should be light years ahead, people start to pay attention. We used data to tell a story about how we were falling short and actually bringing all of the people who are already in our community to full inclusion. So we have a great racial divide in our community, which is true in many cities in the US, and this helped us to shine a light on it and make sure that we were going to do things that made a difference. The second part of our strategy is to be absolutely intentional about changing the picture. So Bill Fry, the great US demographer, would tell you that migration is going to happen into the Midwest whether we wanted to or not. It's going to happen from the coast because you're all going to get too crowded and it's going to come our way. But we think it would be too slow to wait for it to happen organically, and that we have to pull it to us as opposed to waiting for it to arrive on our doorstep. And we have strongly used this idea of moving from the social equity platform to make the case for why diversity and inclusion matter to the business platform, that it is a bottom line imperative for any organization or any city or region that aspires to prosperity. And at the corporate level, we find that we are starting to see some aha moments in some of our biggest corporations. And just so you know, Procter & Gamble, Macy's, Kroger are among the companies that are headquartered in our region. I was in a meeting with affinity group leaders for one of the top corporations just a couple weeks ago, and there was just a major moment of revelation when people said, oh my gosh, it may be important to us that even if we can create an inclusive culture in our organization, that we will not be successful in retention if we don't make sure that the community context around us is also highly inclusive.
I think we can all appreciate the benefits and the value of diversity of thought. And we've talked a lot about that here today. Being open to new ideas, new approaches, new ways of solving problems, and essentially avoiding groupthink, and actually proactively and intentionally seeking thinking and seeking information from people of different backgrounds and different disciplines.
I think that's, sorry to what Angela said, I think it's very important that we also make ourselves and also our, I would say, people who hire other people, the so-called hiring managers, aware that there are some biases we might not be aware of. And I personally, of course, I have my personal biases and so on, and I need people around me then who help me out. So that means that we also do everything when it comes to hiring, that we do it as a group and not just as one person, so that we try to eliminate those topics. On another point, maybe I might come back to the question, okay, what are the challenges and obstacles? So I might bring that maybe to maybe from a global company's perspective. So, and I mentioned that before, that Siemens went through a tremendous transformation from a very strong German-oriented company to a global company, but nevertheless we still have most of our headquarters in Germany. So that means, and guess who sits in Germany in the headquarters? So that's also an issue. And when you don't really then bring also the core function and the headquarter functions into the countries where you are active in, so you also might see some obstacles in terms of diversity, because then the top management of a company also needs to represent that. And you see in a lot of global companies, they do a lot of work on that, really to bring different people with different background other than where the company was founded. You see it in companies in the US, yeah, so you have a big competitor, so same. So they do those efforts, we do that. So, but that is I think that's something we need to do. And then you bring in from those other countries, so young people and talents into the top management ranks. And of course, they have a different perspective, and they hire differently, and they see things differently. And then, of course, it develops in a more diverse direction, and also deals with topics about biases and so on, which might come from your personal upbringing and cultural background.
And I think when we move away from looking at diversity as being a physical characteristic and really redirect the focus to being more around diversity of thought and understanding how different thinking and different ideas can actually make a difference and invite that kind of creativity, I think what we started to see happen was people looking beyond that definition, that traditional definition, and thinking about how they can contribute and the difference that they can make to the objectives that RBC is trying to meet.